Welcome to episode number 358 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. Find us by searching for Beyond Social Media Show. We are recording on August 1, 2021. You'll want to catch it. If you missed it last week, I interviewed Coral Grazier of Fiskars Group, and we had a great discussion about branding, about retail, about influencers, and a lot more, some Shakespeare thrown in there. So it's a really good conversation. Go back and listen to the last episode if you missed it. But on to this week, we have a lot of things to talk about, including sugar water NFTs, lo-fi video ads, ape NFTs, how TikTok's algorithm works, TikToking classic commercials, logos in email, Google My Business call data, Amazon store experience, hate channels, craft ice cream, middle-aged dancing guys, and you want to stick around for some data about influencer spending, but we kick it off with best story of the week. And DL, you will always have that honor. What was best story of the week?
Well, I just want to say that your interview last week really was terrific. And if you missed it, you really want to hear it because there's such good information in there. So I think the best story this week, which came to me through Jeremiah Ouyang, is that Coca-Cola is joining a lot of brands that are selling NFTs, and Coke is selling a series of 4 NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens on the block of cryptocurrency. And these 4 NFTs are going to be sold as a single asset, and the proceeds are going to benefit Special Olympics, which is just fantastic. And this is from a Forbes article by Marty Swant, and for its digital asset debut, Coca-Cola partnered with a company called Taffy, which is a Utah-based startup that makes avatars and other virtual content. And they're resurrecting a pixelated version of Coke's classic 1956 vending machine. And according to I'm going to screw this up. Oana Vlad, Senior Director of Global Strategy for Coca-Cola's trademark division, the NFT space is changing so quickly that the company's work had to evolve on an almost daily basis, maybe more quickly than it would on any other project. And that's absolutely true. The changes are coming really fast. However, instead of cans of Coke inside the vending machine, it's called the Friendship Box, and it's supposed to look like a loot box in video games. And so it's an Ethereum-based NFT. For anybody who doesn't know, Ethereum is on the blockchain, and you have to have an Ethereum wallet to buy NFTs. And the box includes a metallic red bubble jacket that's inspired by the company's old delivery uniforms, but it illuminates with fizz. And it also has digital versions of Coca-Cola's 1940s trading cards and something called a sound visualizer that has classic Coke sounds. It's so cool. You'll love this, Dave. Such as bottles opening and a drink being poured over ice. And Coke's auction began bidding on July 30th. It runs through August 2nd on OpenSea, which is an online marketplace for NFTs and crypto collectibles. And actually, there are a bunch of those that are popping up. Joshua Schwarber, who's the Senior Director of Global Digital Design at Coke, said this is a really cool convergence of form and function and aesthetic. The ability to do things in motion and have artwork come alive, or be able to reimagine our assets in a new and unique way to create these multi-sensorial kinds of opportunities. So Coke is one of just a bunch of brands that are experimenting with NFTs. On Wednesday, Campbell's Soup worked with artist Sophia Chang and the shoppable video app Pronounce Network to create an NFT collection that celebrates the soup company's newly designed label. Taco Bell was the first among the brands to jump on the NFT wagon when it released a series of limited edition taco NFTs. And even Dolce & Gabbana and other luxury brands have released NFTs of their high fashion collections as recently as this month. So however this works out for brands is going to depend on how well they understand the appeal of NFTs. It could become a gotta have it thing for brands, or it could actually signify an actual cultural shift, which is what my next story is about.
Well, going from high tech to low tech and cultural change, this is along those lines. Katie Ewer writes for Ad Age about lo-fi video ads that are producing results. So you and I talked about, during as the pandemic hit, and how everybody was adjusting, the news media having to go remote and all the technical difficulties with that. Everybody jumping on video conferencing and Zoom cornering the market essentially for that. But it acclimated everybody to lower production values. So it's not so bad anymore if your video is not Hollywood quality video production. So this is along those lines. So there's an increasing, the article argues that there's an increasing dominance of video ads that are deliberately unpolished quality. So advertisers are creating ads that look like they have low production values. One variety features real stories from real people, and it puts real people in their story center stage, portrays life without artifice. And according to a 2019 study cited in the article, they found that self-recorded creative from advertisers outperformed studio shot creative in Facebook stories for content views 84% of the time. Again, it goes to how consumer expectations have changed in the age of Zoom. There's greater tolerance for lower production values. They appear as more authentic. I've actually been doing some work with one of our clients, Acra home healthcare company here in Minnesota, we're doing interviews with clients to get basically client testimonials, and recording those via Zoom. And they're not high quality videos, but they're great stories, and they're authentic. They're coming directly from the mouths of the clients. So it's interesting.
That's a really interesting change. And I mean, just this morning, I was watching, what was I watching? Face the Nation. And there was more than one speaker who wasn't properly mic'd, but it's about what people have to say at this point. Although I have to say it bothers me because it's not that hard to do it right. So it bothers me when people don't, but it is what it is. So a lot of people are changing their avatars to cartoons of apes, and they're buying them from the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And there's a New Yorker article this week by Kyle Cheta, who says NFT clubs are all the rage among cryptocurrency enthusiasts. And the question is, are they a get-rich-quick scheme or the future of culture? And so I actually was in an insider webinar in which the guy who started the Bored Ape Yacht Club was one of the speakers. And it's absolutely fascinating how much money these people are making. But anyway, an increasing number of accounts on Twitter have changed their avatars to cartoons of apes. There's apes with sunglasses, or apes with bunny ears, or apes with leopard pattern or rainbow fur. There's apes smoking cigars or shooting laser beams from their eyes. And many of them have toothy grimaces or blasé expressions, but they're all over the place. And so Bored Ape Yacht Club is somewhere between an art collection, a streetwear brand, a hedge fund, and a user-generated universe of intellectual property. It's basically a digital social club where members get rich. Lucy, be quiet. So contrary to the sense that the NFT market is dead, amateur projects like Bored Ape have been making millions of dollars on launch, creating markets of 100 million plus. It's a financial structure as much as it is a cultural one. The initial batch of Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs brought in more than $2 million, and the collection has since seen almost $100 million in trading, where the cheapest apes go for almost $14,000. In recent months, by the way, I can't remember right now. I'll get back to it. But in recent months, the project has inspired a wave of similar clubs and a mania for NFT avatars and crypto enthusiasts. The center of most of these clubs is Discord, the real-time chat app, and Board Ape Yacht Club's Discord server has more than 13,000 members and fans, as well as NFT owners, and lots of constant discussion in channels like Crypto Talk and Sports Bar. This mutual investment, social and financial, it forms a kind of bond among club members within the wider internet bedlam. And Twitter is the center of crypto information online. And a tip from a client of mine is that if you're making lots of money in crypto, you might not want to brag about it on social media, because the IRS says if you made more than $20,000 in digital currency, then you need to report it, and it's taxed not as investment, but as property. So you might tone down your bragging a little bit if you're making all this money.
Or go ahead and be taxed fairly. I mean, you know. The Wall Street Journal did an amazing investigative story on TikTok and how its algorithm figures out what you like and serves you more of it. They created hundreds of automated TikTok accounts that watch thousands of videos on TikTok. Each bot had a name and an IP address so that TikTok would know, what location, where they were located. And then they assigned the bots, Wall Street Journal assigned the bots interest that was expressed on TikTok by rewatching or pausing on videos about those interests. So TikTok learned basically that most of the bots' interests, TikTok learned most of the bots' interests in less than 2 hours. And eventually the bots sent the bots down rabbit holes that went to more extreme content, just like the story we've heard from YouTube and from Facebook and the other ones. So an initial interest in politics led to conspiracy and QAnon videos. But the fascinating thing, I mean, we'll put the link to it in the show notes so people can watch the video. The fascinating thing is that the only thing that TikTok really needs to know about from your behavior to know what you want is dwell time. How much time do you spend pausing on a video as you're scrolling through the feed or rewatching a video? And then you get enough of that. Starts out by showing you a bunch of really popular videos, and then as you scroll through those and react to those really popular videos with millions and millions of views, then it figures out what you're interested in based on your pause and dwell time behavior on those videos, and then sends you into more niche content based on that. But again, we'll put a link to it in the show notes so people can watch that.
That is so interesting. I have a lot more on this subject later. So speaking of TikTok, they've challenged their users to remake classic commercials. They want to remake now famous ads like the Skittles Touch, Snickers, the Old Spice, the Man Your Man Can Smell Like. All of them went on to become part of pop culture. And so this is from an Ad Age story by Anne Christine Diaz. And TikTok tapped some of its most popular creators to put their own spin on the famous campaigns. The videos are hilarious. They kick off a challenge to the platform's community to create their own remakes, and they'll be aggregated under the hashtag TikTok remake. The remake push also aims to inspire and show brands and agencies how to be creative on TikTok, which of course they have to learn from the users. And you can read that as how to speak to the younger generation of consumers who spend their time on TikTok. So the effort debuts following a 1-year anniversary of TikTok Business, which hasn't done a great job of promoting itself, I have to say, which has preached to its customers, don't make ads, make TikToks. So for the new films, TikTok worked directly with BBD&O, Mars, and Mars Wrigley's in-house social team, The Hive, and also with P&G. And the first push will be promoted on the platform for 5 days, but the TikTok remake hashtag will live on indefinitely to encourage other people to make their own remakes and suggest other ads they'd like to see as part of the program. So this is reminiscent of Google's Project Rebrief, which was a campaign from 2012 conceived out of Johannes Leonardo and Google Creative Lab, which asked agencies to remake classic ads from Coca-Cola, Alka-Seltzer, Avis, and Volvo using Google's various tools and offerings. So everything old is new again, as usual.
So are the brands associated with the classic ads involved in this?
Yeah, they are.
So they're are they like paying for it?
I'm sure they are.
Okay.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, that's
It'd be crazy if they weren't.
yeah, and it's a kind of a clever thing to do to get, if you get
the
other
engagement.
TikTok users to create other ads that aren't involved in this initial push, other brands, then those brands have to pay attention to TikTok, and then all of a sudden maybe they start getting interested in advertising.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is something that anybody who does email marketing should know about. This is from Asa Heiken at Marketing Drive and or Marketing Dive. Apologize. Google has started to implement brand indicators for message identification, BIMI for short, BIMI, in Gmail inboxes. It is an anti-phishing framework. It's an email authentication protocol that allows brands to verify their identity to email recipients by using logos that appear alongside their emails. So the brands first need to pass through verification steps. They need to implement domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance, DMARC. If you do email marketing, you probably already know about that, but and then they need to obtain a BIMI certificate. Verizon Media, which owns Yahoo, and Fastmail support the framework already. Google is implementing it now through Gmail. But this should, it's something that if you're doing email marketing, and who isn't, you probably should make sure that you get it accomplished. But it should help cut down the successful phishing attacks, and therefore also ransomware attacks. So everybody should just do it for that reason alone.
Very interesting. I haven't seen it yet. So I'm done with good news. I'm on to bad news. So
all right, I got a couple more. This one's from
go right ahead.
Barry Schwartz at Search Engine Land, who reports, this is quick, reports that Google is now showing actual caller data in Google My Business call history feature. So it includes their caller ID information, like a name and phone number, and the date of the call, and looks like it's a push to help small businesses improve their customer service by answering the damn phone. I've had instances where I've called a restaurant and it's been busy. I'm like, how is it possible to have a busy tone in this day and age?
Really?
I mean, at least dump me into voicemail if you're not going to answer the phone. So there's that.
I did a survey when I was at Burson. I did a survey of how many of the top 100 on the Fortune 500 list, how many of those websites had phone numbers on them that you could call? Almost none. Yeah. And to this day, they still don't. Yeah. Luckily you can go to Google and look them up, but I mean, how ridiculous. Although sometimes the number that's on Google is a non-working number.
Yeah. I mentioned a couple of episodes ago that I went to the Mall of America for the first time in a long time, and place was packed. There's tons of people there. But one thing I failed to mention in that conversation is I went to the Amazon store. There's an Amazon store at the Mall of America. And in episode 232, we talked about this company called Happy or Not that made terminals that had simple yes, it asks the question, how was your experience, and it has a smiley face or frowny face, and you hit one of the buttons to on your way out, you place it by the door or something to determine, to measure whether you had a good experience or not. Amazon had one of those, so I took a picture of it and put it in the show notes.
Did you have a good experience?
I didn't have a bad experience. It was kind of an ordinary experience. They have their, stuff that they sell on Amazon, a lot of Amazon products and other stuff. And they have two prices. So there's prices for the unwashed masses, and then there's a lower price point for those who are Prime members, right? Anyway, I was surprised. I'd never seen one of these terminals, these experience terminals out in the wild, and no,
I haven't either. That's kind of cool, though.
All right, we're on to worse. What do you got?
Well, this is kind of a big thing. Social media companies are getting failing grades in two new reports, which find out that they repeatedly fail to remove anti-Semitic content. Facebook and Twitter were rated the worst. This is from the New York Times, from Shira Frankel. It's called Tracking Viral Misinformation, and there's a summary of the report called Failure to Protect. And so on Instagram, a detail from a medieval painting was superimposed with words suggesting that Jews are responsible for the deaths of children. On Twitter, a photoshopped image of world leaders with the Star of David on their foreheads were posted above the hashtag Jew World Order. And on YouTube, a video of the World Trade Center on fire was used as a backdrop for an argument that Jews were responsible for the terrorist attacks on the towers. So all of these are examples of anti-Semitic content that has been explicitly banned by social media companies. They were shared on social media, and even after they were reported, they're allowed to remain up. And the report released on Friday by the Center for Countering Digital Hate said that 84% of posts containing anti-Jewish hatred were not acted upon by social media companies. Facebook was the worst, failing to act 89% of the time, despite announcing new rules to tackle the problem. Twitter is especially guilty of allowing bots and crazies to dominate the conversation on the comments on vaccine science. And as a result of their failure to enforce their own rules, social media platforms like Facebook have become safe places to spread racism and propaganda against Jews, according to the Center for Digital Hate, for Countering Digital Hate. So using the tools that the platforms created to allow us to report posts that contain hate speech, nudity, and other banned content, the center's researchers spent 6 weeks reporting hundreds of anti-Semitic posts to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube and TikTok. They analyzed posts that were seen by up to 7.3 million people, and they found Twitter and Facebook had the poorest rates of enforcement action. Of the posts reported to them as anti-Semitic, Facebook acted on roughly 10.9%, Twitter acted on roughly 11%, YouTube, by comparison, acted on 21%, and TikTok on 18.5%. So a Twitter spokesperson said the company condemns anti-Semitism and is working to make Twitter a safer place for online engagement. We recognize that there's more to do, and we'll continue to listen and integrate stakeholders' feedbacks in these ongoing efforts. That was from a spokesperson. TikTok said in a statement that it proactively removes accounts and contexts that violate their policies and that it condemns anti-Semitism, doesn't tolerate hate speech. The company said we're adamant about continually improving how we protect our community. So the report had recommendations, and one of them, which I think would really work actually, is introduce financial penalties to incentivize proper modification. Platforms profit from the proliferation of hate and misinformation, and financial incentives might have some impact on that. So the Anti-Defamation League also published a survey on hate speech, and they said we were frustrated but unsurprised to see mediocre grades across the board. And that was from Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League. These companies keep corrosive content on their platforms because it's good for their bottom line. even if it contributes to anti-Semitism, disinformation, hate, racism, and harassment. And that's exactly what J.T. Kosman told me a year or so ago about why this is happening, because it doesn't hurt their bottom line to do this. So it's past time for tech companies to step up and invest more of their millions in profits to protect vulnerable communities who are harmed on their platform. So this New York Times article scrolls to the many lies and disinformation that New York Times reporters have debunked with facts. And just this week, from my own experience, I'm not going to cite the tweets because I don't want to encourage them, but there's tens of thousands of anti-vaxxer and anti-science believer tweets on Twitter. And when you look at the source of the tweets, the majority have 0 or 1 follower, no photo or bio, which means they're bots. Hundreds of them placed exactly the same tweets on a post I wrote this week saying that I'm tired of the excuses from anti-vaxxers. So, the platforms have all the tech to stop this hate. And this is exactly the kind of thing that makes social media toxic, but it's also part of their business model. And it's against that for them to stop it. So Tom Nichols tweeted, people, anti-vaxxers and chaos agents are infesting social media. Please think twice before engaging some anti-vax argument from random name, many numbers. Those are the bots, folks. Awful.
What financial incentives are being, I didn't catch that.
Well, they're suggesting that they be fined.
Okay, by whom?
Failing to do that.
Like legislation that would fine them for not?
Well, that's the question. Who would do it?
Yeah.
Who would fine them?
Yeah. So this is not a big deal, but it's really gross. This is from Neatorama, which reports that Kraft has partnered with ice cream maker Van Leeuwen, I think is how you pronounce it. I've never heard of them. To produce an ice cream flavor of macaroni and cheese. You can buy the macaroni and cheese ice cream at Van Leeuwen's website, but also it's available now in New York City, Los Angeles, and Houston, whichever ice cream shops would carry it, I guess. They're available until supplies run out. So BL, it's on you to go out and get some macaroni and cheese ice cream and test it out and report back, since you're in New York City and I don't have it here in Minnesota.
I was in Whole Foods the other day, and Van Leeuwen ice cream, of which there are shops in the city, it's like $8.99 a pint. I mean, the idea of that is so repugnant. Yuck. Well, everybody who tasted it said it was disgusting on social media. How could it be anything but?
Of course it is, but now I know Van Leeuwen's brand, so it was successful, right?
I guess. But so would you want some of it? I mean, that doesn't make me want to try it.
But it was a good PR. It's a good PR stunt.
I guess. I always wonder who was at that meeting who said, "Yeah, great idea. Let's do it."
I want to know who was at the meeting where they talked about dancing guys, middle-aged dancing guys in commercials, because I've had enough of it.
This is so funny, Dave.
I first noticed, the middle-aged dancing guys in commercials in a Wayfair commercial. Yeah. So this was like 2017, I think. And so the Wayfair commercial starts out, it's actually well done. The Wayfair commercial starts out with this seductive, sultry tune and a visual design worthy of James Bond's opening credits. And it's this, this middle-aged guy with a dad bod and a utility belt dancing away to this sultry song. And he's the handyman hero of the ad. Actually, very well done ad, just production wise and everything. And then I noticed an Arby's commercial had a balding and bespectacled. Man, I can't say that. Bespectacled, yes. Arby's chef dancing and singing in monotone as he prepares a sandwich. And then, of course, the pharmaceuticals got in on the action. Goli, nutrition gummies. Jim is breezing by at work as people are celebrating a birthday and someone shouts out, Jim, want some cake? Nope. Jim's cutting down on his cravings thanks to Goli apple cider vinegar gummies.
That's still on.
Yeah, it is. Vasipa, it opens with a middle-aged guys dancing to the Go-Go's We Got the Beat. I guess Vasipa allegedly helps prevent heart attacks and strokes, although I wouldn't have got it from the commercial. Voltaren has a middle-aged guy sliding on the dance floor with a voiceover of a woman saying, with Voltaren arthritis pain gel, my husband's got his moves back. And then there's Metamucil, who throws in a gratuitous middle-aged dancing guy right in the middle of their commercial for no apparent reason. Moxie, a musical shower head commercial, features a meaty middle-aged dancing guy naked in the shower. Gross. Grubhub has a commercial with a fat middle-aged guy dancing, but has the common decency to make the commercial a cartoon, so it's not nearly as annoying. But I know that the whole dancing guy thing, copycat industry of the advertising agency, I know it has jumped the shark because I saw recently a local realtor featuring middle-aged dancing guys. In the guy's name, the realtor's name is Chris Lindahl, and everybody in the commercial is doing the Lindahl. So they're all dancing, and it's over, folks. Okay, enough with the middle-aged dancing guys. But Wayfair was the smartest of the bunch. I mean, as I said, it was high production value. It was a well-done commercial, and I thought it was kind of odd that they put this guy in this position till I fixed Pam's car's Bluetooth. It was acting up. I found a YouTube video and figured out how to fix it so it wouldn't act up. And she's like, after I fix it, she's like, that's pretty sexy. I'm like, what? Fixing something?
Did you dance?
I didn't dance, but I guess that's where Wayfair did some consumer insight research and found that women find handymen sexy for some reason. So at least it was based on some. Right. At least it was based on some insights there. So there you go. We'll put links to all the commercials in the show notes so people can see just how bad they are.
Yeah. I mean, and those aren't the only ones. There's lots of dancing fat guys all over the place. Not that dancing fat guys are a bad thing.
They are in commercials.
But anyway, that brings us to smiles, although we just had some. This was the best comeback of the week. This was on Twitter, and this guy posted his sister's response to getting turned down for a job ad at a garden center. So the response that she got said, "Good evening, Charlotte. Thank you for your interest in the position and contacting me. The position is still open. However, unless you are a bodybuilder, I fear that you will not be able to handle the workload, as it is very physical and demanding, as we are a hard landscaping company. If you feel you are up for it, then feel free to contact me on the number below. Kind regards, Mark," who I guess is the owner. And so she writes back, "Hi, Muscle Mark. Thanks for your quick reply. Funnily enough, I probably have just as much experience bodybuilding as you do, which I'm guessing is none. What I do have is years of experience landscaping and also building retaining walls in 40-degree heat, as I did this in many years when I lived in Australia. I have looked into your company before sending this email and assure you that it would be no more challenging than the work I have completed before, as it was to a much higher standard than the work I've seen on your company. I've seen your company produce. However, what I do find challenging is working with small-minded individuals such as yourself that I could probably bench press 5 minutes after being woken up from a 3-year coma, because therefore I am no longer interested in this position. I am sure you will have no problem finding the correct individual at your next visit to the bodybuilding convention. Kind regards, Charlotte, AKA not the bodybuilder." Good for her.
That's good.
Okay, I got another one. That's
All right.
really cool. Today marks 21 years since the first website was ever published, and it's online now. It's dedicated to World Wide Web information, such as it was 21 years ago. But happy birthday, World Wide Web.
Happy birthday. I didn't know that. At
I
CERN.
just
At
learned that.
CERN, of course. Yep. Okay. Shiny new stuff. I've got so WordPress just updated to version 5.8, and with that update, they now support the graphic image file format of WebP, as in Paul, WebP. And this is a file format that takes up, there's smaller file sizes. So they don't take as long to download and therefore increase page load speed. So I'm going through some clients' websites to look and see where we can improve the performance of the site by converting the images to WebP. Unfortunately, it's hard to find converters for that format, but GIMP, I think we've talked about the GIMP image editor in past episodes. GIMP is a open source Photoshop alternative, basically. You can get it for Windows, Apple, or Linux, and that has WebP file format. It supports it natively, so you can, take your JPEG and save it as a WebP and use it that way. Apple has a WebP converter that's free as well. We'll put links to this in the show notes. But the problem with kind of, WordPress is great, but people who don't understand HTML, and a lot of people who use WordPress don't, they upload these huge photos, like they're massive size photos, and that will just kill your download speeds. So they're not resizing them to fit the space in the web page before they upload it. And so you find a lot of that when you go through like website redesigns and stuff, or try and improve site performance for SEO purposes. But this WebP converter is going to be helpful. Put a link to it in the show notes, and I'll stop talking about it.
Well, I love when you get geeky, Dave. I think it's sexy. So I was introduced to a site called Miro, which is a collective whiteboard for visualizing ideas. And it's very intuitive. Even I can use it, non-geeky me. And it is for distributed cross-functional teams. So over 20 million product managers, coaches, developers, and other team members around the world are already using it. And so we used it the other night to redo the outline for a website that I'm working on, and it was fabulous. I mean, it's quick, it's easy, it's clear, and even I can do it.
So you can do wireframes with
Yeah.
it? Oh, cool.
You can do all kinds of things with it.
Right.
And yeah, and there's a free version and some paid ones.
Cool.
Well, we have no politics this week. How about that?
That's refreshing.
Really, I have a pro tip. Do you have one?
Yep.
Okay. Google's rolling out, this is interesting. Google's rolling out a new way to optimize videos that you can publish on your own website. So they launched Seek to Action, which is a new way to optimize videos with key moments when they're on your own site rather than on YouTube, to keep people on your site longer. So previously it was trickier. This is from, where is this from? Search Engine Land and Google Central blog. And previously it was trickier when the video was uploaded to your website because you had to manually label each segment. But now all you have to do is tell Google the URL pattern for skipping to a specific timestamp within the video, because each of those timestamps has its own URL, which is something that I just learned. And Google will use AI to identify the key moments in the video and then put those links directly to those moments in their search results. And it's called Seek to Action. It was announced earlier this year at Google I/O, and it's been in beta for several months, and it just came out of beta, and it's being extended to support any site that publishes videos.
That's cool. Here's a pro tip on that. You can get that unique URL for a segment of your video by using the share button on YouTube. And it has a little checkbox if you want to start the video at this point. It will add a parameter. Basically, it's the seconds into the video where that point started to the end of the video URL, and that'll give you your time-stamped URL. So mine, I'm sure we mentioned this in past episode, LinkedIn introducing a feature for having a video cover story. So we're the place where your photo is on your LinkedIn profile. You can add a video, and it's 30 seconds long, so you only have 30 seconds to say what you want to say, but it is added to your profile photo. It adds an orange ring around your profile to denote that there's a video there. And it animates when hovered over. When you hover over it, then it animates, but you have to click on it to watch the video. And, you can use it for a ton of reasons. You can promote, some of your new initiatives. If you're doing speaking engagement, tease your upcoming speaking engagement. We could use it to tease an upcoming podcast or a past one. I used it recently for a job opening that we have at our agency, and actually got somebody responding to it based on the video. So it works.
Everybody has that now?
I believe so. You can only record it from the mobile app, though. You need to use the mobile app to record it, so you can't record it on desktop. But there you go.
Very interesting. I want to try that. So I came across the Open Notebook, which is a 501c nonprofit, and it has tools and resources that help science, environmental, and health journalists at all levels of experience sharpen their skills. And they say our mission is to offer practical, principled, craft-focused guidance for the science writers of all levels of experience anywhere in the world. And anybody can use them. And they also have free courses like how to pitch science stories that sell, how to spot scientific hype and misinformation, and how to find an angle for any science story. So there's like a free 6-day course that has a concrete, achievable strategy for identifying, sharpening, and vetting story angles. And by the end of the course, according to the description, you will have delved into a topic that interests you in a variety of ways, calculated to pinpoint a novel, pitchable angle. Students can expect to spend 30 to 60 minutes per day on the 6-day course, including time spent doing the homework, which you get every day. And the courses are sent by email, and you can do them at your own pace. There's no set starting time. So I was actually going to take the one, How to Pitch Science Stories That Sell. I think that's fascinating.
That's very cool. That's very
cool. Free, totally free.
Yeah. Here's another pro tip that's related to that. Follow university PR accounts. Make a list of university PR accounts, because they will routinely publish innovations that universities are creating. And in Minnesota, we have a lot of healthcare related expertise in our university system. And so, if you want some interesting science and stuff that's coming across that may not go into your local newspaper, or mainstream media may not catch up on it, but those universities are always releasing cool stuff. So let's wrap this up. Influencer spending. Influencers marketing spending in the US is set to grow more than 30% this year, according to eMarketer. And that is a key milestone that will be surpassed. The category will exceed $3 billion in 2021 and surpass $4 billion next year. Put a link to it in the show notes. By 2023, it is expected to reach 4.62 what is that, $billion? Yeah, so that's a lot.
Yes, billions of dollars are definitely a lot.
Yeah, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money.
So I must apologize for Lucy. The enemy dog next door was apparently in the hall a few seconds ago. So that brings us to the end of episode 358 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you find us by just searching for Beyond Social Media Show. And links to everything we talked about today, including the videos and the original sources, will be at beyondsocialmediashow.com/358. And I am here with the always charming, always informative David Erickson. He's on Twitter as D Erickson. He's on Instagram as DE Erickson. He's on YouTube as eStrategy, and he blogs at e-strategyblog.com, which is terrific, and you should definitely read it. I am BL Achman. I'm What's Next on Twitter. I blog occasionally at What's Next Blog. I'm on YouTube as What's Next Blog. I have a website at blachman.com and an Instagram account at Lucy the Rescue Puppy. The Beyond Social Media Show is beyondsocialmediashow.com. We're on Twitter as BS Media Show, and you can subscribe to our show anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can also tell your smart speaker to play Beyond Social Media Show. And we're on iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Any place you get your podcasts, we're there, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks for watching.